Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Think about, which I imagine be not too difficult, but think about current circumstances in the world where beings um, have great terror, okay, great terror, fear, um, feeling crushed, experiencing having nowhere to go, um, all the terrors, all the extreme terrors that can occur. Okay. And think of the almost universal idea throughout the world, or universal belief throughout the world, um, that um, people who die in very difficult circumstances, that there is something left behind, okay? Or that, like a haunting of particular places, okay? You guys are all British, so God knows you live in a country where you can't move for history, having been there. And also you can't move for some sort of tragic, horrible, ghastly thing has happened over the horizon. Anything from a few hundred years ago to thousands of years ago. You know what I mean? I mean, Scotland, if you come from Scotland, for heaven's sakes, that's enough to make you want to do dozens of Segaki ceremonies. Um, so the, the Buddha's teaching in terms of skillful means to rescue, to help beings, is not really very much about theology or a set of beliefs. It's more about how do you deal with and address circumstances that people experience. Okay. So if people experience ghosts or uh, the haunting from their dead or whatever, or senses of panic on lonely roads, and then they bring that to Buddhist monks, then Buddhist monks address it. Do you understand what I mean by that? So don't expect clear definitions. The monks of Samye Ling, as you know, went down to the Rollright Stones, which is not very far away from them, and did ceremonies along these lines regarding ancient places. I hope I'm helping rather than adding to. So, based upon these various beliefs, as I say, which are pretty much universal, these ceremonies were developed as a way of helping. And because the Buddha's teachings not only focuses on the helping of other beings, but also oneself, then what the ceremonies are also part of is addressing these things within ourselves. Okay. Uh, I think, again, many people would have experienced panic, if you understand what I mean. Um, Panic, fear. In this particular ceremony, a lot of the recitations have to do with feeling or experiencing restriction, limitation, terror, having nothing, um, and of impediment. Okay, obstruction, impediment. So this ceremony is to address this. Now, this can be somewhat difficult to explain because of the nature of the idea that people have of ceremonies as a form of sort of magic or something given at a distance. But this is not the same thing at all. And also in these ceremonies, as I say, most of you would have been at these ceremonies before, would you not?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, some people would have. Okay. If you've been at the ceremonies before, then you have a kind of an extra obligation because, and it's something that can take, particularly those who are not directly participating in the ceremony, like lay people, it can take people a while to realize that the ceremony is not simply something that the monks are doing, okay, but rather everybody present is meant to sit as still as they possibly can, okay, and to help with the ceremony, to help raise, if I can put it that way. Do you understand what I mean? Transfer of merit. I'm getting puzzled looks, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean you directly, the gentleman sitting directly in front. I didn't mean necessarily you, but there was a sort of puzzlement. um, um, yes, so everybody participating, everybody being there for the ceremony is meant to kind of add their help to it. When you're a prior, for example, and you're doing this ceremony early on in your being a prior in a congregation, it can feel quite lonely as if you're the only one doing the thing. Okay? Because people don't understand that this is not a thing to observe, it's a thing to participate in. During the ceremony, you'll all go up and offer incense, for example. All these forms of the ceremony are simply means, okay, on which, or platforms on which to put our training and our stillness. I'm very fond of doing Segaki ceremonies, partly because I get to throw things about. Okay. Most, you know how Zen is by now, you're familiar. We all sit there, you know, don't do anything to shock the neighbors. With Segaki, I get to pick up those things and toss them about all over the place. Partly because Segaki is about, how do I put this? It is sometimes called shattering the gates of the hells. Okay. And the ceremony itself, particularly, well, you will read or will have read the Sweet Gate scripture, which is pretty straightforward. The mantras themselves are, we've tried various means of translating them. Do you do them in translation? You do.
No, we do them in
Oh,
Japanese.
okay. You're nodding. You're doing that British thing of nodding, meaning I hear you, but not that I understand what you're saying. Anyway, um, so those mantras that are recited are all about terror, feeling of impediment and obstruction, feeling of extreme feelings. I mean this in a deeper way, of ugliness, okay, of being crushed down, of ugliness through either physical aspect or damage to the body or whatever you want to call it, or people fearful of showing themselves, of the feeling of being bunged up. Do they say that there in Britain? They say it in, I'm from Newfoundland. All the people in Newfoundland, all the English people come from Dorset and Devonshire. So we say all sorts of things. So that feeling of being bunged up, I don't mean simply in the toilet manner, but, in general. Um, the feeling of being of poor poverty or lack of. And so what the ceremony does is it transforms, or this is the idea, by invoking, how do I put it? It transforms the, uh, well, do you do the dedication of merit from time to time?
Yeah.
Okay. The dedication of merit, you could say, is about what the Segaki ceremony is about.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. Through the means of people coming together and offering, and through the merit of giving, dispelling darkness and terror. And what is it? Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. So what the ceremony is about of Segaki is, for at least a brief moment during the ceremony, of welcoming all of this into paradise, into the space of merit, if I can put it that way. The beliefs or views is that all these things, whether beings, whether fragments of something, whether something lodged in a place, whether something within ourselves, can be helped. The way the story goes is that in ancient India, they believed that beings who died under tragic circumstances, who had no families to pray for them, would wander, or that beings who had caused harm, particularly in like refusing food or sustenance to other beings, that they would then be unable to find anything to eat or to consume. And at Segaki, we are not the relatives, generally speaking, of these people. Okay. In Asia, this ceremony is done right after the monks' summer retreat, the rains retreat. Okay, so all the merit accumulated is then dedicated. So you lay out food coming out of generosity, not out of any requirement, because these people are related to us or anything along those lines. But we offer food, generosity. The Chinese, as people probably know, offer everything made of paper. We do this. This is controversial. Oh, hell with. I don't think the head of the order is supposed to say things. But in any case, you can get Chinese, and we put them on the altar too, because you're trying to address beings where they are, not where you wish them to be. So, like the Chinese, I did a Segaki once for somebody who had died under horrible circumstances. And when I asked what their favorite food was, I was told it was beer and cigarillos, little cigarettes. And I said, well, wasn't their favorite food? And they said, no, that was what they were living on at the time of death. So that's what we laid out. And so now there's a paper. All the Chinese like to make these things of paper, literally paper computers, paper batteries, paper credit cards, and they lay them on the altar. Well, you wouldn't want it's a way of, shall we say, you were mean to your grandmother and you want to kind of apologize. So you can still do so. In Hong Kong, they did cars, entire life-size cars made of paper with spare tires. It's more a Chinese thing than Buddhist. But if you think that in China, in ancient times, they would entomb actual people, if you know what I mean, in these great big tombs and entomb actual objects. This was a somewhat Buddhist way of addressing the same thing, but without causing harm. So we have a little box that has paper, cigarettes, and matches, and I think a little paper lighter. And we put that on the altar. Because this ceremony is very, very much about not judging other beings. Okay. Very, very much about that because the karma or the beings can enter, if I put it that way, the space, because the space is free of judgment. Okay, we do not know where these various karmic things can come from. So in the ceremony, we try to sit still and, as it were, open or create a space of stillness, of acceptance, of compassion without judgment. That's very important. And so in the mantras, we invoke the Buddha who frees from fear or frees from terror. The Buddha who is the beautiful body. Okay. The Buddha whose body fills all of space, which is reassuring that there is no place, as the offertory says, there is no place where it does not manifest itself. So one is making use of one's own knowledge and faith to open, if I can put it that way, a space, a safe space, shall we say. When the Nomaku-san Manda Bodanan Ban is recited continuously, that is the, as it were, invoking of the guardian kings or whatever you want to call it in the four directions to protect the space. Okay. The protection of the space, how do I put it? Anything can enter, but it protects it from the insincere and the judgmental. Then there is the Buddha called Kanro, which is the pure pouring out of the water of great compassion. Um, then there is the abundant in jewels Buddha. I think I've covered them all more or less. And one is, yeah, laying out a space. And in Buddhist ceremonial, one doesn't get into does this work or not, or what sort of theology does it fit in. As Reverend Olwyn and Reverend, I'm sorry, I do know your name, but it's escaped me. But in any case, would know the instructions when monks are transmitted says, do not poke into, as the meaning is, poke into the meaning of the ceremony. Just do it. Okay. Particularly the celebrant is instructed, don't go trying to see anything or anything along those lines. Don't poke into it. Just be still. Do what needs to be done. So there are many versions of this ceremony. in the sense of each tradition, pretty much every tradition in Buddhism does it in some way or another. I think they all when they do the ceremony, they come up with various means of showing compassion. Incense which permeates everything and reassures that the space is safe to enter. Water, cleansing lights because of the darkness. And the generation in one's own mind of compassion for all these beings. One of the reasons why it says don't kind of seek to poke into it is because it's a space where beings, or whatever you want to call it, karma may enter, that has gotten up to all sorts of things. Okay. Some of them we might individually find hard to be accepting or compassionate towards. Homage to all the Buddhas in all worlds, homage to all the Bodhisattvas in all worlds, homage to the scripture of great wisdom.